Most people think the goal is $1 million. That's why most people never experience compounding. Because the number that actually matters is $100,000. Below that, your progress depends on you. Above that, your money starts doing real work. And here's where it breaks. Most investors never cross that line, not because they invest too little, but because they interrupt compounding right before it starts to matter. Because the hardest part isn't starting, it's continuing when nothing exciting is happening. And most people underestimate how long that silence lasts. 1. Feels like nothing. There's a phase in investing where everything is technically working, but it feels like nothing is happening. And this is where smart people make expensive decisions. They switch strategies, they chase higher returns, they try to optimize, and in doing that, they don't speed things up. They reset the process. Every reset puts you back at the starting line. Even if your balance looks higher, your compounding clock starts over. In this video, I'll show you why this phase exists, why it feels broken, and how most people delay their own progress by years without realizing it. 2. Core idea, effort versus systems. Most people operate on one assumption: more effort leads to more results. That works in your career. It quietly fails in investing. Because the traits that help you earn money, action, control, constant improvement, are often the same traits that destroy long-term returns. In investing, effort doesn't compound. Systems do. The market doesn't reward activity, it rewards patience applied over time. And that's uncomfortable for most people. 3. Compounding feels wrong. So the goal isn't to work harder, it's to build something that keeps working when you stop. That's compounding. And compounding isn't hard because of math. It's hard because it feels wrong for a very long time. Nothing dramatic happens. No visible breakthroughs. Just slow, quiet progress that's easy to doubt. 4. The math. Let's make this real. $10,000 at 8% feels irrelevant. $50,000? Still slow. $100,000? Now something changes. Not mathematically, psychologically. Because for the first time, the returns start to feel noticeable. And if you leave $100,000 untouched at around 8%, after 30 years, it becomes roughly $1 million. No optimization, no timing, just time plus consistency. No perfect entry needed, no genius strategy required, just not quitting early. 5. First spike. Here's the problem. If you restart your strategy every few years, you're not compounding, you're resetting. And resets are invisible mistakes. They don't feel costly in the moment, but they destroy future momentum. 6. Perspective shift. The first decade of investing often looks unimpressive enough to make intelligent people quit, not because it doesn't work, but because it doesn't feel like it's working. Compounding pays late. Your brain rewards what pays now. That mismatch is where most people lose, because your brain is wired for quick rewards. But investing delays gratification on purpose, and most people never adapt to that delay. 7. The dead zone. This phase has a name, the compounding dead zone. It's where progress is real, results are invisible, patience feels irrational. Most investors don't fail in the market. They fail in this phase. They walk away right before it gets interesting, right before momentum starts to show, right before compounding becomes visible. 8. The threshold, clean framework. Here's the shift. Phase 1. Build 0 to 100,000. Income matters more than returns. Savings rate dominates outcomes. Consistency is everything. Phase 2. Let it run. 100,000 plus. Time becomes the driver. Returns start compounding meaningfully. Inactivity becomes an advantage. Most people try to optimize phase 2, while they're still stuck in phase 1. They focus on returns instead of discipline, strategy instead of consistency. And that's why progress stays slow. 9. Where people fail. More painful, and this is where it gets expensive. At $10,000, Impatience. At $25,000, experimenting. At $50,000, forcing acceleration. This is where people start picking stocks, try options, chase trends, panic during volatility, and every time they do, they don't just lose money, they lose time. And restarting at $50,000 instead of reaching $100,000 can easily cost you 5 to 10 years of compounding. And time is the one thing you can't recover. Money can be rebuilt. Compounding years cannot. Compounding doesn't fail. People interrupt it. 10. Activity trap. This leads to a dangerous belief. More action equals better results. In reality, activity feels productive long before it becomes profitable. It gives the illusion of control. It makes you feel smart. But it quietly delays real progress. 11. Lazy advantage. This is where lazy but ambitious becomes powerful. A slightly lazy investor doesn't react to every headline, doesn't change strategy constantly, doesn't try to outsmart the system, and that's exactly why they win. Because they stay in the system long enough for it to work. They don't interrupt momentum. They don't overreact to noise. They simply stay consistent longer than others. 12. How to reach $100,000. So if $100,000 is the real milestone, how do you get there faster? 3 things. 1. Simplicity. You don't need to beat the market. You need to survive it. 2. Automation. Remove decisions leads to increased consistency. 3. Income. Most important. Before $100,000, your savings rate matters more than your returns. Most people focus on returns. That's why they stay stuck longer than necessary. They ignore the one lever they control most, their income and savings rate, and that slows everything down. 13. Role shift. Once you approach $100,000, your job changes. You're no longer building momentum, you're protecting it. That means no unnecessary changes, no reacting to noise, no interrupting compounding. Because now, the biggest risk isn't doing too little. It's doing something unnecessary. Small changes become big risks. Overthinking becomes expensive, and discipline becomes your main advantage. Most people never experience compounding. Not because they didn't invest, but because they stopped the process before it had enough time to work. Reach $100,000. Then get out of your own way. Let time do what effort can't. Let consistency replace intensity. And let compounding finally take over. If you want to approach money like real investors, not more active but more precise, subscribe.